We're just handing out s'mores at the campfire tonight, buddy.
Times dA, which is the combination of these two differentials.
So you get
we've
into
got d by
a list of
dy
sectors, values under
n
numbers, $30,
times
$80 gap,
dxr
on 10% ups.
by
I'm looking
dy
at them, looking for 45s,
n.
pulling it out, trying to find something nice.
That's
They're up
combination
a
there.
lot. That's up. It'll show it
Now,
over a 6 month.
observe
holding
that
at 10.
this term here
Today, tomorrow, given the apocalypse, if it's
is
the
equal
squirrels
to
over here.
this term here. TM.
You can get into specific names that'll individually do it. Tech gap.
And we were asking,
Here you
does
got
that
just some
term
names
there
right now in the
equal
sector.
This term.
The name, well, you can give them the
This term
abbreviation code
equals,
because it's
yes,
all really relative
we've
to
got
here,
exactly the same
and
answer that
not
we
the number
wanted.
that it is.
Those two are exactly the same.
They
Except
play different
there's an
places
additional
for
term
pressure, motion
here.
position,
So actually they
velocity,
are not
acceleration.
equal. We've got this additional thing
And
here. And that
you can
combination
get that up pretty
of,
heavy about chemistry,
differentials,
about
just
physics,
that little
social
combination
engineering values, multiple
called
platforms,
gamma.
pressure and stack that
Capital
actually
gamma.
needs.
It's actually given the title
Starting at
the
the end of it here
Christoffel
because that
symbol.
is reality
and we
Z.
represent the indices
Of
that appear
it has
here by
to be at
putting,
least here.
since
Call
there's
it
an
a day.
R upstairs,
Sorry,
we'll put an
brother.
R upstairs.
Look outside that
and
window.
since
That's
there's an
battle.
N and an M downstairs, we'll put an N and an M downstairs. So that symbol, that Christoffel symbol, that capital gamma,
Read your dentures.
is simply a shorthand way of writing this double differential there. It's the extra term that says that those two
In this
things
class,
are
it's
not
about
equal.
Tell me Bones told you.
In
to do
other
it,
words,
show
let's
me.
just
You
make
prove
it
to
clear.
me.
What we asked was, does TMN
Yeah.
in the Y frame of reference equal DVM by
The bells.
DYN?
Sanctuary.
And the answer was, no, it doesn't,
Yeah.
because
Hi, new
there's
friend.
that
Crash.
extra
New
term.
bunny come around.
And the way we get round that extra term is we say that TMN Y does equal a new concept
Yeah,
which we will
Connor,
call the
arachnophobia. Fuck off
covariant
my tongue.
derivative. That's what that symbol means.
I mean, you're not allowed to
Of
have house spiders
the
or salties.
M. So it's not the ordinary derivative. We've shown it was not. We're going to call it the covariant derivative. And what is the covariant derivative? Well, the covariant derivative
Why are you
is
looking
going
at
to be the
What do you-
ordinary derivative, dvm by dyn, which is what we thought it was, but it wasn't, plus the Christoffel symbol, plus the correction term, multiplied by
It's the news. I'm
the
gonna put you on it.
Rx.
I'm gonna let you think. I'm just gonna stand here. If you want to get off of it, you can.
And so we've now got a transformation where you've got derivatives, which has to include this Christoffel symbol. It's the extra term. And I'm going to
You're in the
call that
classroom. Remember that? Read
equation
we were talking about before.
7.
Janeway.
So let's put a box around it.
Oh, you want me to give you stuff? That guy over there that you like to do things
And now we
about
can ask
stuff,
ourselves the question, so what is this Christoffel
Fiddle me
symbol?
this, Johnny.
And it's the compensation for the fact that the ordinary derivative of a tensor in one frame of reference does not transform. You
Where's my
need the
militia? Changed
covariant
me. How's
derivative
that way about
in
a
order
dozen
that
girls?
you can get a transformation of a derivative of a vector which is a part of a tensor. And that's important because a
If you
lot of
walked
the
in the
Einstein
mill,
field equations
you don't
require
have one.
derivatives of tensors. Well, we just did that using vectors. We're going to need to expand that for the purposes of tensors. So let's take the covariant derivative. I'm going to have to use P because I'm going to use M and N in a moment, because I'm going to do the covariant derivative
Take 90 days.
of
Give me any
the
of your shit.
tensor
If you wanted to, you Van Ash
TN.
Manish, grip your ass right into your fucking office,
And that is
disappear,
going
and
to
get
be,
it
if
done.
you look at the equation that we just derived, which is equation number 7, showing essentially if I double that up for two indices, I'm going to get the ordinary derivative, TMN by TY.
Dragging over here, man.
You can see
Well,
how
Sam
that
should tell
derives
you
from
that.
equation
We're going,
7.
you know how this happens, right?
But now I'm
Walk
going
away
to
with
need
the help,
two
anyway.
Christoffel symbols. So I'm going to need one for the M element and one for the N element. So this is going to be
sigma. We do sigma over here.
Plus
You don't need this. You're trying to show off at the bar.
Symbol
Great. She'll love you.
for the N element.
You do that shit in my class.
And that's the transformation of a tensor from one frame of reference
Sigma,
to
lambda,
another.
gamma.
And we'll call that
SOHCAHTOA.
equation number 8. Now, what about the covariant derivative
I have
of
that.
the
It's the Military
metric
Joint Chiefs
tensor
Staff
that we
Dictionary of
derived earlier?
Terms. This is the marshmallow.
Let's just
It's
remind ourselves
aircraft carrier.
what the metric
Marshmallow, that
tensor
formula,
was.
would
We
you?
started off with good old Pythagoras,
45.
where this
This
was
much every day
dx1,
around
this is
here.
dx2,
Click,
this
X,
is ds,
line.
and we said that ds
That's on
squared
45.
equals
Clearly see, this is
dx1
I was
squared
burning, here's
plus
pitch roll and yaw, and then the
dx2
next step.
all squared.
I love it.
And we said that you could rewrite that as the sum of dx
Yeah. You can break a rule.
n
It's okay.
times dx n, or if you like, you could write that as the
They hit
sum
you with
of
that tree. It's like,
dx
okay, here's the
m
shadow problem I bring up all the time. It's that little
dxn
screaming
times the
gorilla in the
Kronecker
tree. I'm like,
delta.
get your ass
M
down.
n, where,
It's got a crack in it.
remember,
You
Kronecker
get down.
delta was 1 when
The screaming
n
fish
equals
problem
n,
about the speed
and
of
it's
sound
0
and a
when
fish
n
that
is
screams
not
over
equal n.
a waterfall
And we said that
problem
on flat
inside here
space,
is pretty complicated. But you're right, that tree doesn't
That
have a
is
crack in it.
essentially GMN for flat space. It's not true for curved space. Indeed, that's the reason you have the metric tensor GMN. It corrects Pythagoras for curved space. Now, what is the derivative? We'll call it the covariant
I'm not shitting
derivative
this monkery.
of GMN, let's say with respect to R, in the X frame of reference,
Wide.
if we are talking about flat space. Well, in flat space, the metric
Didn't know
tensor is
that rule.
either
It's 13.
1
Thank you for
or
telling
it
me.
is 0. It is a constant.
Apparently it is.
So the covariant derivative of a constant in flat space is 0. But
They
what
just
did I
let you
tell
walk
you
right in and
about
stick your dick in it.
derivatives of tensors? If you've got a value of 0 in one frame of reference, then you've got a value of 0 in all frames of reference. So consequently, the derivative of the metric tensor will, or the covariant derivative of the metric
But
tensor
did
will
you know,
equal 0
did you graph that model
in
inside of this
all
demographic?
frames
That's
of
no
reference.
board right there for you. Take out of yourself.
Which means if we take this formula up here, equation number 8, and replace, just write it out again, but put put G in place of all the T's, we will have a transformation or a value of the covariant derivative of G in terms of all these terms, but the covariant of G, of course, always equals 0. So if we replace T's by G's, then this all becomes 0, so let's just do it. I'm going to take equation number 8,
He doesn't know where you're
and I'm
living.
simply going to write it out again, exactly as it was, but this
You saw
time I'm going to
hieroglyphs. That's
substitute
why you saw
G
what you saw.
for all the T's. So I'm going to get
Sometimes it plays when you do it glyph style.
by
Like I want it to be
DYP
day.
plus the
Ah.
Christoffel symbol, PM and R of GRN
It's
plus
glowing right here.
the Christoffel symbol, PNR of GMR.
Straight model.
And what I
Have
can
an
now
office,
tell you
it'd
is
be
that,
wild.
the covariant derivative
Because if this
equals
was
0,
up there, I would just
so
do
I
some
put that
fancy
as
magic
0,
with the equation
and
to
now
change
I've
x
got
over to
an
y,
equation
and that would be that set.
which has
I would
got
try to go back
the,
through the mill and
metric
then
tensor in
reorganize
it,
that.
and a derivative of
Nothing
the
wrong
metric
with I pound that
tensor.
through, but what I got to remember
the
inside
Christoffel
here that you
symbol.
won't get as
So I
reading this,
ought to be able to
'cause I had to switch
rearrange that
off
equation so that I can express the
mathematically.
Christoffel symbol
So
in terms of the
yeah,
metric tensor.
zodiac
Now for that,
on
you need a
NC,
mathematician. So
they
you go
call
along
that-
to
they
your
call
friendly
me-
mathematical professor, and I dare say Einstein did the same,
figure.
and he will tell you that if you've got a Christoffel symbol with just A,
You
B,
have your
and
code like
C,
that, we're going to do a different kind of rabbit calc, because that
then
was
that
actually
is
the
going to
answer
be
why it come to
equal
me.
to,
You
take
asked
a
me
deep
code about
breath,
crypto on numbers at AX, AY, AB.
D, where D is an additional term, it becomes an additional summation term, into the derivative
You're
of
running around out there. What you see, the
GDC
problem is, even if the enemy's out
divided
there,
by
is your own unit.
dxb, or by dxb, plus, remember the mathematicians come up with this, so we naturally take their word for it, minus, hope this is going to fit in, dgbc by dxd.
Look,
and I'll
blue,
call
black,
that
red,
equation 9. And what you've got, courtesy of the mathematicians, is you've taken this